And if it has been watching us all along, then the silence isn't empty. It's intentional. Because a civilization capable of sending something like 3i Atlas across interstellar space wouldn't need to announce itself. It wouldn't need signals. It wouldn't need language. Its technology would be the message. Think about it. We expect contact to look like communication, radio waves, symbols, maybe even voices. But that expectation comes from us. From human limitations. An advanced intelligence might not communicate in ways we recognize at all. Instead, it might choose something far more subtle. Presence. A single object. Silent. Precise. Unexplainable. Something that doesn't tell you what it is, but forces you to realize that you don't understand what it is. And that realization is the message. Because the moment we accept that something like 3i Atlas may be artificial, everything changes. Not just science. Not just astronomy. But humanity's position in the universe. We go from being observers to being observed. And history tells us something important about that shift. Whenever a less advanced civilization encounters something far more advanced, the outcome is never neutral. It's transformative. Not always through conflict. Not always through contact. But through realization. The realization that the rules you thought were absolute aren't. And that's exactly what 3i Atlas is doing. It's not breaking one law of physics. It's breaking many. Acceleration without thrust. Heat without emission. Structure without randomness. Each one alone could be explained. But together? They form something else. A pattern of impossibility. And patterns matter. Because patterns are how intelligence reveals itself. Not through chaos. But through consistency. And 3i Atlas is consistent. Too consistent. Its motion is smooth. Its brightness is stable. Its structure is unchanged. It behaves less like an object reacting to space, and more like something operating within it. And that difference is everything. Because once something is operating, it has purpose. And purpose leads to intention. So now we're forced to ask something even more direct. What is it doing? Is it scanning? Measuring? Observing changes on Earth? Or is it simply passing through, because its mission was completed long before we even existed? That possibility might be the most unsettling of all. Because it means we're not the target. We're just late. Late to a system that has already been running. Late to a process we don't fully understand. Late to a universe that may have already mapped us before we ever looked up at the stars. And yet, despite all of this, there's something even stranger. Because if 3i Atlas is observing, then it has already gathered data. And if it has gathered data, then that data has to go somewhere. Which raises a question no one is asking loudly enough. Is it sending anything back? Not in radio signals we can detect. Not in light we can measure. But in ways we don't yet understand. Quantum signals. Gravitational encoding. Methods of communication that don't degrade over distance. If something like that exists, we wouldn't even know it was happening. And that means right now, as you're watching this, as scientists are analyzing data, as telescopes continue to track its movement, there is a possibility, however small, that 3i Atlas is not just here. It's reporting. And if that's true, then somewhere, far beyond our reach, something else may already know exactly who we are. Not guesses. Not theories. But precise information. Our atmosphere. Our technology. Our signals leaking into space for over a century. Everything we thought was invisible may already be seen. And suddenly, the universe doesn't feel empty anymore. It feels aware. Not watching every moment. Not controlling every event. But aware enough to notice when something changes. And humanity has changed. We've split the atom. We've mapped the genome. But there's something even more unsettling than its motion, something that didn't come from telescopes. It came from time. When analysts began reconstructing the trajectory of 3I Atlas, they didn't just track where it was going. They traced where it had been. And what they found didn't just raise questions, it created a pattern. Because when its path was projected backward, it didn't scatter randomly across the galaxy like most interstellar debris. It aligned. Not perfectly. Not obviously. But consistently enough to disturb anyone looking closely. The origin vector pointed toward a region of space that astronomers had already marked decades ago. A place known not for objects, but for a signal. In 1977, a radio telescope picked up something that lasted only 72 seconds. No repetition. No explanation. Just a narrowband transmission so precise it didn't look natural. That event became known as the "wow" signal. For decades, it remained a mystery. A single whisper from the universe. Then silence. But now, nearly half a century later, a physical object appears, moving along a path that traces back to the same region of space. Coincidence is always the first answer. It's safe. Comforting. But coincidence starts to collapse when patterns begin to overlap. Because this isn't just alignment. It's timing. 3I Atlas didn't just arrive randomly. It entered the solar system at a moment when human technology has just become advanced enough to observe it in detail. That alone would be strange. But combined with everything else, the acceleration, the composition, the silence, it begins to feel less like discovery and more like encounter. And that's where the conversation shifts. Because for the first time, scientists aren't just asking, "What is this object?" They're asking something far more uncomfortable. Why is it here now? One theory, rarely spoken outside closed discussions, suggests that objects like this are not explorers. They are observers. Not sent to communicate. Not sent to interfere. But sent to watch. If that sounds extreme, consider this. A probe designed to travel across interstellar space would need to survive for millions, even billions, of years. It wouldn't rely on fragile systems. It wouldn't depend on constant communication. It would need to be autonomous. Self-correcting. Self-sustaining. And almost impossible to detect. In other words, it would look exactly like something natural. Until it doesn't. And 3I Atlas crossed that line the moment it stopped behaving like physics allows. But here's where things become even more disturbing. Because if this is an artificial object, then it raises a question that no one is ready to answer. How many others have already passed through our system, unnoticed? Think about it. For most of human history, we didn't have the technology to detect interstellar objects at all. Even now, we only see a fraction of what passes through our cosmic neighborhood. That means it's entirely possible that this isn't the first. It's just the first we've actually noticed. And if that's true, then Earth hasn't just been observed once. It may have been observed many times. Across thousands, or even millions of years. And suddenly, humanity's place in the universe shifts again. We're not early. We're not alone. And we may not even be the first civilization on this planet to be watched. Because observation doesn't require interaction. A system designed to monitor developing worlds wouldn't interfere. It would wait. Wait for signs of intelligence. Wait for signs of technology. Wait for a specific threshold. And that leads to one of the most unsettling theories of all. What if objects like 3I Atlas are not random probes, but triggers? Not weapons. Not messages. But markers. Devices that activate or respond when a civilization reaches a certain level. A level defined not by curiosity, but by capability. Nuclear energy. Artificial intelligence. Planetary-scale communication. All things humanity has achieved within the last century. Which raises a chilling possibility. What if we didn't just discover 3I Atlas, what if we qualified for it? Because from that perspective, its arrival isn't coincidence.